Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Karaduki Kilu here in Lagos, but first, the biggest political stories at this hour. Well, the House of Representatives resumes to cross-carpeting and defections of members from one party to the other. As the Labour Party loses members to the PDP also loses members to the APC. And President Tinubu to launch a Nigeria First policy as an executive bill in a bid to prioritize Nigerian businesses and local content over foreign products. Now, what will be different this time around? We find out. The Minister of Education clarifies the reported discrepancies surrounding student loans disbursements, attributes it to what are described as late reporting between the universities and Nelfund.
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
Well, lots of moving parts in the nation's political landscape, pun intended there, as we begin with this development story from the House of Representatives, which resumed from recess to official announcements of defections and movements by lawmakers from one party to the other. Honorable Chidi Obeta from Enugu State's letter was first to be read by the Speaker, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, as he moved to the People's Democratic Party, PDP, citing division within his former party now, the Labour Party. Also citing the same reason as Honorable Obeta, another Enugu lawmaker, Honorable Dennis Agbo, also defected from the Labour Party to the PDP. But that's not all. Honorables Victor Wokolo, Thomas Erei-Tomi, Nicholas Mutu, Jonathan Okadiko, Nnamdi Ezechi, and Julius Bondi, all from Delta State, defected from the People's Democratic Party, this time to the APC. The lawmakers cite division within the leadership structure of the PDP as their reason. So it's officially, yet again, a season of defection. And it's not just the state executives, even lawmakers are not left out. While we follow the proceedings at the National Assembly, let's head over to the court where the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, resumes before Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, with the cross-examination of the first prosecuting witness with codename Mr. AAA. Our lead counsel to the defendant, Mr. Kanu Agabi, asked Mr. AAA if he was consulted before the charges were filed, and he said yes. He was asked whether he was aware that the defendant was initially charged with 15 counts. He was also asked whether he was aware that the defendant was charged with inciting members of the public to attack and kill police officers in furtherance of terrorism. He said he was aware. He was asked whether he was aware that the defendant was charged with inciting the public to stop the Anambra State election and to destroy public facilities, and that those charges were struck out by the trial judge. He said he was not aware. The prosecution witness said he was aware that the defendant was charged with inciting and forcing the public to stay home on Mondays, and is aware that the defendant was also charged with inciting the public to burn down every federal government building in Lagos, including destroying transport facilities. However, he said he was not aware that those charges were struck out. The lead counsel to the defendant, Mr. Gabi, then ended his cross-examination. The counsel for the prosecution, Mr. Awomolo, then asked Mr. AAA what he understood by the term agitation, but the judge overruled the question and subsequently discharged the prosecution witness. Then came the second prosecution witness, Mr. Triple B, as a code name also, who is a DSS officer and has worked with the service for 26 years. He has seen Mr. Kanu at their national headquarters, and he says he knows Mr. Kanu as the leader of IPOB, an organization that's been prescribed by the court. He says he met Mr. Kanu on July the 17th, 2021, when he was assigned to take Mr. Kanu's statement at the DSS headquarters. He said Mr. Kanu is also the founder of the Eastern Security Network, which is the armed wing of IPOB. He said Mr. Kanu also operated Radio Biafra which broadcasts at 102.1 and 88.0 FM frequency. All these, Mr. Triple B found out Mr. Kanu, or from Mr. Kanu, during interrogation. IPOB, according to Mr. Triple B, is present in 5 southeastern states and parts of Kogi and Benue. He told the court about a letter dated June the 20th, 2021, which the Attorney General of the Federation wrote to the Director General of the DSS, urging for the investigation of Mr. Kanu for terrorism activities. Well, the letter was shown him. He identified it, but the counsel, Mr. Kanu Agabi, that's the defense lawyer, told the court that the document was not in the proof of evidence that had been served on him, and the trial judge asked that the document not be admitted in evidence until the prosecution serves same on the witness. And narrating what happened on July the 17th, 2021, Mr. Triple B said he was assigned to take Mr. Kanu's statement in the company of some DSS directors and Mr. Kanu's lawyers. He said he read the letter to the Attorney General, or of the Attorney General to Mr. Kanu, and also played for him some videos which the AGF alleged were inciting the public to kill, maim, and destroy police officers. He said Mr. Kanu admitted that he made these broadcasts. He also said the interrogation with Mr. Kanu was recorded and is on the CD plate. And Mr. Awomolo sought to tender the CD plates in evidence.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Well, we also continue to follow the proceedings at the court. But let's head over to the executive arm of government now, where President Bola Tinubu is set to unveil an executive bill on a policy known as the Renewed Hope Nigeria First policy, which is aimed at prioritizing Nigerian businesses and local content to foster a new business culture in the country. At a briefing after the Federal Executive Council meeting, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says the policy aims to change government spending, procurement processes, and economic development to support local industry. Our State House correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
Ministers and other members of the Federal Executive Council gathering in the State House Council chamber. They are joined by some appointees who are to be sworn in. The chairman and 10 commissioners of the National Assembly Service Commission and 2 permanent secretary designates. Immediately the president arrives, the appointees take their oath of office. They each have a handshake with the president. The Federal Executive Council meeting then commences. A few hours later, it is time to brief correspondents on key decisions taken in the meeting. A key one is the Renewed Hope Nigeria First policy.
This seeks to foster a new business culture that will be bold, confident, but also very, very Nigerian. And it aims at making government to invest in our people and our industries by changing how government spends money, how we procure, and how also we build our economy.
The Bureau of Public Procurement is to enforce the new guidelines.
Advise and enforce procurement guidelines to prioritize locally made goods and homegrown solutions. It has also been directed to create what is called local content compliance framework for all government procurements.
Approval was also given to address some dams in the country and prevent flooding disasters.
From the Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, contracts has been awarded for the repair of the Alao Dam in Maiduguri. You may recall that this dam caused the flooding in Maiduguri last year. So this contract has been awarded to prevent such occurrence this year.
Nigeria's membership of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank was also revealed.
And we are fully fledged members of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, of course, which is set up to promote infrastructure development and generally sustained economic growth in all its members.
Approval was also sought for the establishment of the National Cocoa Management Board.
As you all know, cocoa is the highest non-oil revenue contributor to the Nigerian GDP. FEC graciously approved the memo, and we're going to submit the draft bill to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Council also approved two critical policy documents, the National Integrated Electricity Policy and the National Policy on Marine and Blue Economy. According to the Minister of Power, he said the policy document seeks to address critical challenges in the nation's electricity sector. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
When Lunchtime Politics returns in a moment, we'll be joined by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ademola Oshodi, as we take a look at some of President Bola Tinubu's foreign policies. Plus, some breaking news also coming from the EFCC about Martin Jose, also known as Very Dark Man. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Lunchtime Politics. Let's now speak with the Senior Special Assistant to President Tinubu on Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ademola Oshodi, joins us from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to Lunchtime Politics, Mr. Oshodi. Let's begin with the President's Nigeria First policy. We've heard about America First. In fact, you have written about Africa First. So how feasible is this Nigeria First program? Because it has the domestic and the foreign aspect as well. So speak to us about how feasible it is when the president, for example, has been seeking medical attention abroad, and the goal now is for us to patronize, or at least ensure that we exhaust what we have in-house before we go outside.
Thank you very much for having me, Kaudi. Nigeria First is very catchy. I like it. It gives us the memories of the American administration of America First. I believe it's something that is not just necessary. It's long overdue, and I'll tell you why. It's because Nigeria's been a very much of an import country. We import a lot of our products, processed and in many ways refined. We used to refine a lot of our, we used to import a lot of our refined petroleum. So now we have the Dangote refinery, we have other refineries coming up. So we're no longer, we should no longer be an importer of refined products. Of course, for market reasons, people still compete and bring refined products in. But Nigeria is moving away from that import culture. So our self-reliance that the Nigeria First policy brings about is way overdue. We have tremendous amount of human resources, natural resources, and we have a lot of investments coming in. A lot of investments being attracted by the President Bola Tinubu with foreign travels, have attracted people bringing in money for livestock, for issues of finance, we got in loans, we have an infrastructure fund coming in. So it's very much a great time to think more about what we can produce rather than what we can import, which in many ways, when we import these things, it exacerbates our foreign exchange issues. So we have more pressure to get dollars, which in many ways affects our own currency. Back to the American First thing, you notice that the American president has raised tariffs for almost all countries in the world, ranging from 10% to 50%, depends on which country it's exporting to America. Nigeria is not exempted from that. Nigeria is also part of that African Growth Opportunity Act by the American government, which gives us a lot of exemptions for duty-free exports to the to the United States. Now that AGOA, or the African Growth Opportunity Act, expires in September 2025. That's this year. We're not sure the American president will renew it. Likely, it wouldn't. So it's very important we focus on ourselves and make ourselves more reliant and open more markets for our goods, more markets away from, I would say, the United States, a market exploring opportunities in the East, the Far East, with China, India, Indonesia, even as far back as far away as Japan. So all countries need to diversify. Nigeria is diversifying its economy with the reforms of President Bola Tinubu. So this is Nigeria first, as catchy, as sexy as it may sound, is very, very important and is way overdue.
Right. So one wonder, what is different this time around? I recall former President Muhammadu Buhari issued the Executive Order 5, I believe, and then he had ordered that all procuring authorities give preference to Nigerian companies and firms in the award of contracts in line with the Public Procurement Act. So we've seen this happen time and again. If I also prohibited the Ministry of Interior from giving visas to foreign workers whose skills are readily available in Nigeria. So it wasn't just goods, even touched on skills as well. So we've gone down this road before, some would say. What is different this time around, or what should we expect will be different this time around?
Well, the difference, Kaide, is the leadership of the country. We have a new president who is very determined to ensure the Nigerian economy is structured to a more reliant and, self-sufficient and sustainable economic base, something that we can build on and have an economy that would give us over $1 trillion, be worth over $1 trillion, a $1 trillion economy. So leadership is different now. We also have acts, legislation has been put in place, the local content, which is also ensuring that Nigerians take the helm in many of these companies, these foreign companies that are coming to Nigeria. So it's not just having those acts, but having somebody that can drive it, somebody that is determined to make those laws alive, to keep them alive. It's one thing to create laws and acts. It's one thing to ensure that it's purposeful. And we've seen with this president, he's very determined. He's very determined to ensure the right things are done. Regardless, though we go through short-term pain, the medium and long-term gain is something that is well in his sight and is focused on. So this is not business as usual, I should say. And I think we should give him that benefit of the doubt.
Right. The reason this is important is, as I said earlier on, we've gone down this road before, but naturally you are speaking highly of this government. So let's dive deeper into the foreign policy of President Tinubu amidst the global context. And you've talked about America first. For example, you've seen the moves of President Donald Trump. You've seen China's response. If we want to do Nigeria first, and you look at production in Nigeria, for example, you see the cost of production and the eventual cost of these goods compared to what people may want to import from China. And now that there's more tariffs on Chinese goods going into the US, the goods might find their way to Nigeria at even cheaper rates, which is called dumping in economics. So is President Bola Tinubu's foreign policy really able to withstand the pressures from all of the bigger powers, the economic powerhouses globally in that sense?
Well, I'm not sure they can dump things produced in a country like that and still be profitable. Obviously, you know what the rate is of the dollar right now. So it's still far, far cheaper, more economical for consumers, for manufacturers to get Nigerian products, to manufacture in Nigeria. It's just ensuring those fundamentals are put in place, the enable environment, government legislation, having the land, having the energy supply, having security. We have all these things in place, which the government is doing its best to do. There's in many of these things, many of these products, many of these services that we import will not be needed, regardless of how cheap they want to dump on our economy, regardless of how much smuggling there is. So it's important that those legislation is put in place and enforced to make sure that not only our infrastructure and our facilities and governance system have things in place for this great manufacturing process that the president is talking about, but also ensuring that our borders are controlled. There's less smuggling. There's less smuggling of in and out of Nigerian products. So, but I will tell you, Kaide, that the difference here is leadership. And between me and you can tell the fact that this man means business, and he's determined to not only ensure his domestic policy, his reforms take shape and succeed, but it's also transition to his foreign policy. Foreign policy ensuring that we get investments, foreign policy ensure that our borders are secure from militants, from external forces, ensuring that piracy is also vanquished from our coast, and very importantly, opening up Nigeria to other multilateral groups like the BRICS, the G20, and in many ways, even entrenching our relationship with the Chinese, the Indian, major global economic powers. So it is a very determined course we're in, and I believe this Nigerian first policy is really what we need, and it's been way overdue.
Well, President Tinubu is not trying to do this in 2D and 3D. He's trying to achieve this with what he calls 4D, and that's the foreign policy thrust of this government. So the Ds are democracy, demography, development, and diaspora, the 4Ds, as they are called. But again, the context is always fast changing, right? So Nigeria has different relationships, different obligations, such that it might be overwhelming sometimes. So I'd like you to speak to us about the president's foreign policy thrust. Again, some will say, we don't have ambassadors just yet. Is that strategic, or is just a major miss? So when we look at all of the moving parts, sometimes it's hard for people to really figure what the direction is. So maybe you can present us the direction of this government in that sense as we begin to wind down, Mr. Oshodi.
Well, you said the 4Ds, which is democracy, demography, development, and of course the diaspora. It's hinged on those four things, the foreign affairs. So I believe the president's focus is ensuring that his reforms, his domestic reforms, take fruit and basically blossom, and they're sustainable. So when you think of foreign policies, like how do you, because politics is local, it's all about our country. Forget how much our image is outside. We need to ensure our economy and our security is in place before we, put too much focus on foreign affairs. So I believe his foreign affairs agenda is to ensure those economic reforms take shape. It's ensure our security, our borders, are secure. Ensure that our neighbors, ECOWAS, basically fall in line with our national interests, which is ensuring trade within our neighbors, security against, militant elements around the neighbors, around this coast of, around Chad, Niger, and the rest of them. Ensuring that we get investments from big international organizations, IMF, the World Bank, African Development Bank, ensuring that our trade, we diversify our trade routes. We're not just depending on the West. Everybody's looking at China. Everybody's looking at India. India is a rising force. I wrote an article about it, about how Nigeria should, many ways, see how India's economic prosperity, economics movement, as many ways Nigeria can mirror this. So we look at Africa also in our foreign affairs and see how the African continent can ensure that we open up a trade with this African Continental Trade Act or Agreement, ensure that we can trade easily within ourselves in Africa rather than focusing too much on the West. So we ensure that peace and stability is also pushed and promoted in places like Sudan and DRC, Congo, and especially in our neighborhood here in ECOWAS, ensuring that those rebellious countries, I would say even rebellious leadership in those countries, return back to the fold. Right. And I'll tell you why they return back to the fold, if I have a few minutes here, Kaudi. Because ECOWAS, Nigeria, and the members of the existing ECOWAS countries have to be a good example. They have to be that mirror, good governance, ensuring that there's democracy.
And Nigeria has a major role.
Free movement and have easy access to opportunities.
Indeed, and Nigeria has a major role to play in that one. So I imagine it's going to be a busy period for you. We have to thank you so much, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ademola Oshodi. Been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's now bring you news just in. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has been speaking about the arrest of Martins Vincent Osei, also known as Very Dark Man, following public outcry about his arrest last week. A statement which was signed by the EFCC's head of media and publicity, Mr. Dele Oyewale, has indeed confirmed that he was arrested, and the statement says that the EFCC invited Mr. Osei owing to a series of petitions bordering on sundry issues of alleged financial crimes raised against him. The EFCC says that he had failed or refused to show up in spite of several invitations sent to him through his known addresses and medium of communication. By the way, his lawyer had earlier denied this. The statement goes on to say that it is needful to admit that the Commission is aware of several unguarded attacks of the suspect against its operations, but the EFCC says that this is not why he was arrested. It goes on to add that the EFCC has a lawful right to hold Mr. Osei in custody like any other suspect being investigated by the Commission. Adds that the appropriate remand order was obtained in this regard, and he has been offered an administrative bail and will be released after fulfilling all the bail conditions. So the EFCC is speaking finally about the arrest of Mr. Vincent Martins Osei, also known as Very Dark Man. Well, this is a developing story, and we'll bring you more updates as soon as they come in. But that's where we draw the curtains on the program this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Stay with Channels Television for all of your breaking news. Goodbye.